Folks, fall camp is officially here, and all I want to hear is that Conner Weigman is the Aggies starting quarterback in 2023.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Fall camp is officially here, folks, and I am utterly stoked. The only thing more exciting or as exciting as college football starting is hearing the words 7 hours of commercial-free football start now. That's coming up too, and I know that at least 94% of people watching me know what I'm talking about when I say that. So the biggest we're going to talk about today, just storylines, topics that are going to come out of fall camp. And I'm going to just say questions I want answered, things I want to see. We're going to have the discussion of what these things, if they all go in the positive way, are going to make me feel a lot better about this Texas A&M football team's 2023 outlook. So the first is the quarterback stuff. Now, in the comments on our YouTube channel at Locked On Aggies, it's been about 50-50. I've seen some people, I think it's more of a quarterback battle than many imagine. Some people say, oh, that's just Coach Fisher, trying to feed people to work harder. There's no quarterback battle. It's been 50-50. Regardless of that, regardless of if it is a quarterback battle, if it's not a quarterback battle, I want it done. I want it over. I want Conner Weigman named the Aggies starting quarterback as soon as possible. Now, here's the deal. Fall camp starts. It's going to go until about the 27th of August, around there. Then, of course, your season starts 4 or 5 days later, kicking off on September 2nd. So the way I look at this is there's not, you want Conner Weigman getting the reps with the starting receivers. You want him throwing the ball to Moose Muhammad, to Aniyah Smith, to Evan Stewart, to Noah Thomas, to Donovan Green. You want him throwing the ball to his weapons. I don't want Max Johnson. Listen, folks, I think Max Johnson's a capable quarterback. I do, and I think there's a way that in some capacity, if Weigman, he gets banged up, if something happens, Max Johnson can help win this football team games, and that's a big deal. I've talked about how great that is to have a backup that is serviceable. But I think that you want your guy getting all the reps, getting all of the first-team reps, gaining all the confidence, building all the rapport with his weapons. And I think that's why I want Conner Weigman named as soon as possible. Now, folks, is that going to happen today? No. Is it going to happen tomorrow? Probably not. I could see it if I had to throw a date out there, I bet it's going to happen on somewhere after the 15th. I think they'll let this kind of go on for 10 days, 10, 12 days. And then we're going to see this over on the 15th, which would still give Weigman, the last 10, 12 days of fall camp to be able to get rocking and rolling for the start of the season. I don't hate that, but frankly, it's like, I just want it done. I think quarterback battles in spring are great. I think they make people better. They make people work harder. They make you stressed, and which is a good thing. I think stress and pressing is a good thing in spring. I don't want that in fall camp. I want fall camp to be my guy can develop, take that month to get ready to rock and roll, get ready for the season, get ready to play some ball. That's what fall camp is for me. So I'm hoping that this kind of gets nipped in the bud here soon and we know who the guy is. But I think we're going to have to wait a few days before it's inevitably said that Conner Weigman is a starting quarterback for the Aggies, which I still believe is going to happen. I just think we might have to wait a little longer than I had previously anticipated. So that's the first thing I want kind of answered, talked about. The second thing, this isn't really a question mark, but I think it's the most important of all. Stay healthy. Stay healthy. Right now is the time where in the spring, you're building up, you're getting in the weight room, which obviously they're still getting in the weight room now, but you're getting in the weight room, you're running, you're doing cardio, you're getting yourself in football shape to stay healthy during the brutal season. I think that this is now the time where you kind of work on more football stuff, but of course you're in pads, you're doing stuff. Stay healthy. You cannot lose a big-time piece right now. You can't lose a Conner Weigman. You can't lose Ruben Owens, Amari Daniels, Le'Veon Moss. You can't lose Bryce Foster, one of the Shamars, Walter Nolan, McKinley Jackson, Bryce Anderson, Tony Grimes. You can't lose those guys. They can't go down. You have got to stay healthy. And I mean, here's the deal. It's nothing we can control. It's nothing I can control. It's nothing anybody can control. Injuries are going to happen. They're part of the game. We've got you got the soft tissue injuries, the non-contact injuries. Stuff can happen at any point, at any time. So I think kind of what the key I'm getting at is here is it's incontrollable. There's nothing I can say that's going to make them stay healthy. Nothing I can do. I mean, I can say it as much as I want. Hey, stay healthy. At the end of the day, stuff's going to happen, but you can't lose a starter right now. You can't lose these important pieces right now, folks. And I think that is a mega key to this 2023 fall camp is you have got to keep your guys on the field. If you keep your guys on the field, you're in business. And you see it happen. That's why a lot of people don't like making predictions or making projections for a team until after fall camp, because at fall camp, a lot of times you're going to see people get hurt. You lose a quarterback, you lose your starting left tackle, your starting safety, you're starting nickel, whatever, and you're in trouble. I mean, you are in trouble. And I think that is why you have got to stay healthy. So we got to hope the Aggies stay healthy. I want to hear positives. There's a few positions I want to hear positives about. The defensive line, Ruben Owens, and the offensive line. We've already at SEC Media Days, I heard Coach Fisher talking up the running back room as a whole about how great everybody is. But as a big believer of Ruben Owens and what he's going to do this season, I want to hear a lot of positives coming from him, just mostly because he's a freshman. When you're a freshman, you're not going to get the same when you're a freshman, this is a big time for you to develop and prove what you got, prove who you are. So this is a big time for Ruben Owens to really say, hey, I can be the guy. I can be our guy. So I want to hear some positives out of that. We're going to hear from Coach Fisher in the media. We're going to hear from some players. And I want to hear a lot of name drops and a lot of positivity about Ruben Owens and what he is going to bring to the table. Is he going to get a lot of snaps? Is he going to be out there a lot? I want to hear positive things about him. And then the offensive line and defensive line. Trenches win football games. You have got to have positive notes coming from both sides of the ball on the line. I want to hear that the offensive line is looking great. One thing I like to think is the offensive line has to go against Texas A&M's defensive line in practice, which is great because here's the deal. When you're going against Texas A&M's defensive line, I think the only possibility of a defensive line that you're going to be playing that's better than them is Bama and LSU. So that means that I think every other defensive line, Miami, you could maybe throw in that mix. But I think all the other 9 defensive lines that you're going to be going up against, you have practiced against better than them. So I think that's a positive. I think, the cliche of the iron sharpens iron, but it does. I mean, these guys make each other better as a whole. A good offensive line helps your D-line get better, vice versa. So I want to hear positives coming from both of these groups. I want to hear some sleepers we've talked about. Is LT Overton having a big? How's he looking? What's McKinley Jackson up to? How is Walter Nolan doing? Is he having a good fall camp? You want these. You just want to hear. You don't want to hear negative things. Now, that's one good thing about coach speak is a lot of what you're going to hear is always going to be positive. But that's what you want to hear, folks. We want to hear a lot of positive stuff coming out of fall camp. Now, on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Aggies, we're going to be strictly talking about fall camp stuff. We should have some notes and some quotes and some good stuff to run through tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be a lot of fall camp stuff on Friday, which is why we're going to do a mailbag today in segment 3 instead of on Friday. So a lot of fun stuff coming up tomorrow with fall camp. We're going to preview the Mississippi State game. This is the game we've talked a little bit about, but not a ton about. And I think it's a really important game, folks, that many people aren't talking enough about. We're going to talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Folks, I love LinkedIn. I really do. I've had friends get jobs. I've gotten jobs. My parents use it. My family uses it. It is a great tool for everybody. There are so many positives. I've talked about this, but I love the little how on your profile, you can say you're looking for work. It'll be a little green and it says like hashtag looking for work, seeking work. And then employers can look at that and say, okay, here's a candidate. We need somebody. Or, so it's a great way to connect with potential hires and to find the best potential hires. I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. So, folks, Mississippi State. This is a really, really interesting game and a really interesting team. I look at this and folks, so obviously Coach Leach passed away. Every time I bring him up, I just have to talk about, Coach Leach is one of my favorite football personalities. I'm going to tell my little 10-second story I do every time, but at media days last year, my first year attending in Atlanta, he went up there and all these coaches have been giving their little 10-minute speeches. And he just goes up and basically says, any questions? The first question, someone said, Coach, no speech? And he goes, well, if I gave a speech, I would answer all the questions you have. So I'm just going to let you ask questions. And I just thought that was the funniest thing. Great person. Tragic. We're going to miss him. Coach Leach, we miss you. But speaking to Mississippi State, there's two things here. Will Rogers and their defense. So their coach, Arnett, I think that he is going to be a defensive mind, of course, gets the gig, brings in to focus on the offense, Kevin Barbay, and who is a guy, he's going to go away from the air raid, Coach Leach's air raid. Kevin Barbay is going to back off the air raid, and it's going to be more of a balanced offense. So it's going to be really intriguing how this team sets up as a whole. I think you're going to see a lot more balance. You're going to see a lot more balance from this offense, which could make Will Rogers more deadly. I have been very candid that, I've heard people talking up KJ Jefferson and talking up Spencer Rattler and Joe Milton. Will Rogers is my guy. I'm staking my claim to Will Rogers. I think he's going to be the best quarterback in the SEC this season. I really like what he does as a quarterback. I think he's accurate. I think he is a smart quarterback, and I think he's a veteran. And like Rattler, of course, and KJ Jefferson, but Will Rogers is my guy, folks. I think he's the best quarterback in the SEC, and you got some good ones. I mean, you got Conner Weigman, you got Jefferson and Rattler and Devin Leary over at UK. It's a solid. And now obviously you don't have a Bryce Anderson this year. You don't have a Hendon Hooker this year, but there's still some solid guys. So, and Will Rogers, I think, is the most solid of these guys. So I'm high on him. I don't think enough people have been talking about this Mississippi State Texas A&M matchup. I was one of them, folks. I was one of them. And then at media days, I kind of learned more and dug more into this Mississippi State football team. And I think people are sleeping on them a little bit. I mean, Will Rogers is a great quarterback. You have an experienced offensive line that's been good, returning a ton of guys, older guys, veterans. Your defense is great. You have a defensive-minded head coach that's been around the program, knows the players. You hit the transfer portal hard and bring in a handful of talented tight ends. You've got a lot of veteran wide receivers and running backs. It's an older football team. It's kind of funny. I was thinking about this. I was like, what's an analogy to use for this team? And it's like, to me, I think this Mississippi State football team is kind of like the Texas A&M basketball team, just in the simple fact that it's a veteran team that's been there of good players. I think sometimes people hear veteran and they go, well, they're veteran. That means they're not good enough to move on to the next level. I don't think that's what that means, frankly. I think veteran means that these are just experienced SEC football players. And sometimes I think experience beats talent. We see that happen a lot. And you're going to see that happen in this game. Texas A&M has a lot more talent. I mean, a lot more talent. I think Mississippi State has a lot more older guys, a lot more veterans. So you're going to see talent go against veteran leadership, veteran players, and we're going to see who comes out on top. Folks, I still think the Aggies win this game. I'm not concerned about Texas A&M win this game, especially knowing that you get to play Mississippi State at your place in Kyle Field. But it's definitely not a game that I am super it's just a game I'm like, okay, I'll give you an example. I think if you ask people, and maybe I'm wrong, well, I'll ask you this. I'll ask you all every day is this. Let me know in the comments, what game are you more concerned about the Aggies potentially dropping? The Auburn game or the Mississippi State game? I think that I am more concerned with dropping the Mississippi State game. And that opinion changed. And I like Auburn. We're going to talk about them. One of our mailbag questions kind of pertains to Auburn in a way. But so I'm more concerned about Mississippi State. I think Auburn is more of a boom or bust team. More of a they could be great. They could be awful. I think Mississippi State, you know what you're getting, and what you're getting is pretty dang good of veteran leadership, which is something I personally am a big believer in the importance of veteran leadership. So this is going to be a fun ball game. And like I said, I mean, a great defense. Their defense is going to keep them in ball games to where it's just up to the offense. I think that they have good offensive line and an outstanding quarterback. Their weapons, they're good. They're fine. They're not world beaters. They're not the best weapons ever. I think your receivers, running backs, and tight ends, they're going to be okay. They're not bottom of the barrel in the SEC, but they're not top end either. So I think this is a game that if the Aggies are able to score on this defense, I don't think it's going to take a ton of points to beat Mississippi State for Texas A&M. I think you put up 21, you win this game. I don't think they're going to score a ton. I don't think it matters how good Will Rogers is. Like I said, I think they're going to have boom or bust games where Will Rogers goes off and gets the ball to these receivers, gets the ball to his running backs, and they're great, and the defense is going to be good. But I don't think they're going to score a ton. I think they're going to struggle to score a lot. So this is a game that I think Texas A&M wins. I think you have to ground and pound on this team. You have to move the ball on the ground. You have to move the ball through the air, be balanced. I think you can score points on this team. I think 21 to 28 points, and you beat Mississippi State this year. I like that it's at home, but it's definitely a game that I think veterans are less scared to play on the road, of course. So Kyle Field might not intimidate a Mississippi State team as much this year as it would have when these veterans were young. I think that's a big deal. I think that to sum up everything here, I think veteran players are solid and make a team better. And Mississippi State has a lot of them on both sides of the ball in all walks of life. A lot of returners. I think the new offensive coordinator, I think it's going to be a revamped offense. I think Coach Leach's offense was starting to kind of get old. People were picking up on it a little bit. So I think Kevin Barbie, whatever it is. Shout out to the Barbie movie. Haven't seen it. Don't want to, but maybe if you all do, great. But I think that his offense, the balance of it is going to be a positive for Mississippi State. I do. I think that they're going to I think they might move the ball a little bit better than they have in recent years, and they've been fine, but I think they might move it more just based off the fact that it's a new offense that, you don't know a ton about it yet. You're going to have to kind of see it firsthand. Coach Leach's offense, you've seen it for a few years now. So I think people are picking up on it. It's going to be an interesting ball game, folks. I don't think this is going to be a cakewalk win for Texas A&M, which I at one point did think it was going to be. So this will be a fun game. I think the Aggies win it. I think it might be more low scoring. I think it might be a 17-28 Texas A&M victory, a 21-14 victory. I don't think it's going to be a blowout because of how good their defense is. I think their defense is going to keep them in games to where even if they lose, the scoreboard isn't, super one-sided. Now, of course, they're going to get blown out, I'd say a game or two, but I think the defense is going to keep them in more games than it's not. So it's going to be a fun game. We'll see how it pans out. I think Texas A&M wins, but I don't think they win by as wide of a margin as I once thought. So fun ball game. I'm looking forward to that one. It's going to be a really interesting football game, but I do think the Aggies come out on top. We got some mailbag questions, folks. I kind of learned a lesson. I record early in the morning now that I moved into the new house. It's a long story. It's Wi-Fi related, but so I posted, hey, leave me some mailbag questions last Thursday, And everybody, people were leaving mailbag questions. And I'm like, oh, well, I've already recorded. I don't have, so I had to use ones from previous weeks. So the mailbag questions that you all left on last Thursday's episode, we will answer coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. Mailbag time, folks. So we have questions from Clayton Robinson, Mr. ATM, and then a Twitter DM. And I didn't write down this person's name. I will find that out and give them a shout out in the description. But Clayton Robinson asks, first half of the season, who are the biggest threats? So this one for me, I think that it's definitely, and the question was besides Bama. So throw out Bama. I think it's Miami and Auburn. I'm not obviously worried about, I am not worried about New Mexico. I'm not worried about Louisiana Monroe, Abilene Christian's later, but I'm not worried about any of those games. My concern lies with so let's see how the schedule goes. It goes New Mexico, Miami, Louisiana Monroe, Auburn, and then Arkansas, Bama. Yes. So I think that it's definitely the ones that I'm concerned about are Bama and Bama. So, okay, let's confirm this. So New Mexico, Miami, Louisiana Monroe, Auburn, Arkansas, Alabama. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, so that's the first half right there. So of the Arkansas, Bama, and Auburn games, Arkansas, Bama, Miami, and Arkansas, Bama, Miami, and Auburn. Those are the 4 games. I'm sorry, folks. I was mixed up first half. But so those are the 4 games that we're going to break down here and talk about, like, of those first half, which ones am I most concerned about? I think that if you want to talk about just flat out concerned, it's definitely going to be the Alabama game. Of course, it's Alabama. They're going to be preseason ranked number 4. They're probably going to be coming into town with, 5-0 because they're the 6th game. They're going to be coming to Texas A&M 5-0. So it's going to be a game to where if Texas A&M finds a way to be 5-0 with wins over Miami, Auburn, and Arkansas, I think that game could be college game day. It's going to be a fun atmosphere. Even if you come into it 4-1 and drop the Arkansas game, I still think that has a chance to be college game day. But that's the game that I'm most concerned about. I think so. If I had to rank them from my level of concern, it would probably go Bama, Arkansas, Miami, Auburn. But I think the biggest sleeper game would be the Auburn game. I think Auburn's going to be better than people really give them credit for, folks. I talked about that a minute ago. We'll kind of have to see how that pans out. But definitely the Arkansas game, I go back and forth. I had a comment yesterday talking about, like, well, I'm not too worried about Arkansas. And I responded, I was like, yeah, I'm with you. I go back and forth. I go back and forth on the Hogs, folks. I do. I mean, they play physical football, but it's like, I feel like they're a team kind of like Texas A&M where people give them some preseason love and then, okay, they win 7 games. They win 8 games. I mean, that doesn't concern me. So I don't think Arkansas is a team that I'm frankly too worried about. I think KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders are good players, but are they enough to really carry you? I don't think so, folks. So definitely Bama and Miami are the 2 games that are concerning to me. So I'm going to change my rankings to Bama, Miami, Arkansas, Auburn. I think Bama and Miami are the games that freak me out in the first half. Those other 2, but I think Texas A&M goes 3-1 in those 4 games. I really do. I think they go 3-1 and start the first half of the season 5-1, and then that's when in the back half, you find a way to knock off Tennessee. You take care of business against South Carolina and Ole Miss. When you drop that LSU game, that's when 10-2, 9-3 comes into play. So that's I think what I'm concerned about. But yeah, you go 5-1, folks. A 10-2, 9-3 season is seriously in play. So it's a big start to the season for the Aggies. And then, so this is another question from Clayton Robinson. For the Aggies to win 10-plus games, what 2 groups need to improve? I think it's O-line and D-line. I mean, you could sit here. I think Conner Weigman, you could obviously say that too, but I think that's too easy of an answer. I think it's O-line and D-line. The D-line's got to stop the run. The O-line's got to stay healthy and give Weigman time and block for the running backs. Those were 2 struggles last year. The offensive line was bad. The defensive line was bad against the run. You have got to be better at those things. I think if you improve on both of those fronts, I think you win. I think if both of those position groups improve, it's an extra win or two this season. I think if those groups have the same issues they did last year, I think 7 wins is in play, 6 wins to where you're not going to have a special year. I think both of those groups have to get better. And if both of those groups do get better, I think 10 wins is seriously in play for this Texas A&M team. Last question here, Mr. ATM, starting O-line. Who do I have down for the starting O-line? Left to right, Trey Zune, Cam Dewberry, Bryce Foster, Layden Robinson, Ruben Fothry. These guys have got to, 1, stay healthy, and 2, be better than last year. It was rough last year, folks. We know that. Bryce Foster goes down. You had some young guys. This is a talented group based off of how good they should be, based off of stars and recruiting and what we saw in spring. So I think this group is going to be really good this year. I do. I think that both sides of the trenches are going to be good for Texas A&M this year. But I think if they're not, look out. This team could struggle mightily. So that's my starting O-line. But folks, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Football is here, ladies and gentlemen. I am excited. I am really looking forward to a little fall camp action. We're going to be talking a lot of fall camp tomorrow on Locked On Aggies. So everybody be looking forward to tomorrow's episode. I really hope everybody has a great day, and I cannot wait to bring you a ton of fun fall camp coverage and conversation tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. We will see you tomorrow.